Bill Atkinson, president of Atkinson Strategic Communications, a Baltimore public relations and crisis communications firm. And I'm here today with Terwilliger, the CEO and founder of Tower Partners, and Jason Pappas, who is Tower's president. Gentlemen, it's great to see you and welcome to City Biz.
Great to see you too, Bill.
Thanks for having us.
Irv, tell us about Tower. What is it? How did it get started, and what does it do?
Sure. We're an investment banking firm. We're based here in Columbia, Maryland. We have a national footprint. And we founded the firm basically to give kind of Wall Street level service to a part of the market we thought and theorized wasn't getting proper service. And for us, that's entrepreneurs, businesses run by owners, founders, family-led businesses, basically people that would be selling a business for the first time. So we founded the firm back in 2008 with that kind of thesis.
So when you founded, was it just you, and did you build, or how did that take place?
Well, back in those early days, it was me and a couple of partners figuring it out as we went. We were lucky to have a mentor that had been doing it for 20 years prior, who really taught us the ropes in those first couple of years.
And now you have how many on your team?
Well, flash forward about 15 years, there's about 25 of us. We're headquartered in Columbia, but we have presence in, I think, 7 or 8 other states right now.
Yeah. New York City, you're in New York City.
Yeah, New York, Connecticut. We have presence in Denver. We have operating partners in about 5 other places.
All right. And how'd you meet Jason? Jason's been there, you've been there almost 2 years, Jason?
Yeah, going on 2 years.
How'd you guys connect?
So Ervin and I sat and still do sit on a board with Maryland Proton Treatment Center that we probably connected 10, 12 years ago when I was running the Proton Center and Erv was on the board. And through that whole process, we not only became colleagues, but also became friends. And when I exited the last business I was running almost a little over 2 years ago, Erv and I got together and started talking about what it would look like if I came in and joined forces with it and helped grow the business.
Yeah. And at that time, it had a different name, correct? 321?
Yeah, 321 Capital Partners. I was never in love with that name, and one of the first things Jason helped me do was change it, thankfully, and I appreciate that.
And just tell me about Tower, the word Tower. What significance does that have?
So I'm a proud Mount St. Joe alumni, as is one of our head of M&A, Eric Endler. And Jason's sons go to Mount St. Joe, as did my son. And my dad was a coach there. So like kind of the preeminent feature on the campus is the tower. It's a big deal. As a senior there, you get to go up in the tower. They save it for special events. So I had always hung on to that idea of tower, and the ability to rebrand as Tower Partners was pretty special.
Yeah. And Jason, you're coaching your kids there, right?
I am. Yeah, coach football. And if you look at our logo, it was actually fashioned loosely after the actual tower at Mount St. Joe.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about some deals that have been underway this year. I mean, you've had a pretty big year. The most recent one is Route 1 Apparel. You just sold that to Maryland Brand Management. Can you talk a little bit about that deal and some of the other things you've had going on this year? Sure.
Yeah, the Route 1 deal is one that our consumer team is really excited about. It's a really well-known brand locally, and one of the things we're trying to do is grow our notoriety local here in the DMV. Most of the deals we've done over the years have been national. So as we kind of focus in our own backyard, to get to represent a company that represents Maryland and everything they do was pretty cool. Founder-led business. So the woman that owned it founded it in a dorm room, ran it for 15 years, grew the heck out of it, and now we were able to sell it to another Maryland-based company that wants nothing more than to continue to grow it. And our owner, and who was ultimately our client, is now going to be the chief visionary officer. So she's going to do exactly what her skill set is, which is growing a brand. She's out of the day-to-day, the stuff that she didn't like, and the company's going to do awesome. It's really a win-win.
Yeah, it was a great deal for us.
And then, so one of the first deals I think you did early in the year was Monumental Supply Company. So completely different, because here you got cool apparel and there you got pipes and fittings. Can you talk a little bit about that deal?
First and foremost, pipes and fittings can be cool, Bill. Like, is a great company. The company is like 75 years old. It's in its second generation. So two sisters owned it and were involved in the business. And they just recognized that if the company was going to go to the next level, it needed ownership that could take it to the next level. A lot of our clients find themselves in that crossroads. So we were on a real tight process. We were honored to be selected to represent it because it's such a great company. And a lot of people wanted to buy that. We were able to sell it to a bigger company. They maintain their autonomy. It's still Monumental Supply, but they're part of a much bigger organization that's growing. The people have great opportunities, new opportunities. The person running the business is now running a bigger swath of companies inside Nuco. So it was an awesome deal. Really, really fun to be a part of, and great people.
And Bill, the commonality, you had said they're completely disparate industries. The commonality is it was founder led, second generation entrepreneurial business, which at this point, most of our business comes from. And we have different industry verticals, but we really focus on the entrepreneurial side, both from what our sell side business is, which is when we're representing companies that are founded by entrepreneurs, but also the buy side of our business, where we are representing investor groups, private equity groups, family offices that are looking to acquire those type of entrepreneurial founder-led businesses. So that's sort of the commonality of it.
I want to jump back to the founder-led in a second, but I want to talk about just two other deals that you've had. I think one was U.S. Liner, which is, I mean, you see those liners, they're on big rigs traveling down 70, 695, and you sold that. Well, tell us about that deal, because I thought that was very unique.
Yeah, one of the things that's really neat about our business is getting to learn how things are made, what goes into them, and the stuff you see every day that you take for granted. So US Liner made one of the components that is in almost every trailer attached to a tractor trailer on the road. So that was part of our special situations platform. So part of what we do is companies that have hit a rough spot that need to transact. So that was a special situations transaction where we were able to find a buyer of that company that really needed a buyer to keep the company going forward. So it was a hard deal. It took a long time, a lot of resources on the team, but successfully transacted, and that company is still hauling along right now.
And those liners are the skirts that
Mm-hmm. That's one of the
run.
components, yeah. It's that fairing that you see at the bottom of the tractor trailers to keep it aerodynamic. That's one of the components they make.
Yeah. And then the other one, I think, was Rev Capital, correct? And they sold to Love's, um, and Love's Truck Stops.
Yeah, another one of those you wouldn't see coming. Everybody knows the Love's truck stops. Love's has a huge financial services platform. So RevCap was essentially a factoring company, so specialty finance company. It's a good representation too that we work internationally. So Rev was based in Toronto, and after running a pretty tight process, we sold part of their business to Love's. That's assimilated and it's all part of their trucking portfolio. So real exciting cross-border deal.
Yeah. So Jason, when you're looking at deals, are you looking? I mean, DMV is important, but overseas, are we going to see more deals in from Canada and maybe other countries?
That is our hope. The last business I was running had a pretty good presence in Europe and the UK. So we would love to be able to go over there. Canada, we have a couple of clients that we're working with, Rev being one of them. And I think, our story is a little bit unique in that we began, or when Irv started, as more of a national presence. And we're really trying to put our roots down in the DMV as well. But a large majority of our deals right now are still outside of the DMV. Most of them national, and a couple sprinkling of international.
Yeah, Bill, we have international client in Europe right now that's hired us to acquire companies in the US. One of our Canadian clients, same situation. And we've sold companies to companies all over Europe.
Yeah. So, Jason, I think you mentioned founder-led businesses, and I mean, this is such a critical time for them because we're seeing the biggest transfer of generational wealth with the boomers retiring. I mean, I saw a number, it was like 84 trillion, an estimated like $84 trillion will exchange hands by 2045. And, and I'm wondering what this means for Tower.
It's in our sweet spot in a couple of different ways. One is, we've talked about the entrepreneur founder led, but it's also most of those businesses sit in the lower middle market, which is underserved by what I would say is sophisticated investment banks. And I think that was part of the vision of when this was founded, is bringing that level of expertise to the lower middle market. And it just happens to coincide with this huge transfer of wealth of founder led businesses that are going to have to transact for one reason or the other, as the boomers are beginning to age out and trying to figure out what their retirement plan is. And if the next generation is not interested in taking it over, which we're finding more often is the case, they're going to need to figure a way to create an exit and hopefully be able to preserve their legacy.
It, yeah, exactly. And Irv, I think you've written about this. What are like five things that founders do wrong when they decide, oh, it's time to sell the business?
Yeah, I mean the core, the root of all evil is they wait too long, right? It's a process. Anybody that sells companies, they talk process. It's because it is, right? You can't wake up today and sell tomorrow. Companies are living, breathing things. There's a lot to them. There's a lot to understand. There's a whole team of people you need to assemble. Investment banker is just one piece of the team, from counsel to wealth to tax to accounting. It's a lot, right? So the biggest mistake is they wait too long. And it's kind of why we launched our advisory platform over the last year. The whole idea was get to people that may want to sell earlier and help them prepare. If you're prepared, you can sell whenever you want. If you're not prepared, you have very limited options.
And the purpose of the advisory or assessment platform is to, one, help people figure out what it looks like, from everything from valuation to process, but also to be able to smooth out when that deal actually happens, that you've gotten through a lot of the road bumps that come up in these type of deals in due diligence and sometimes impair value.
I mean, they, these deals, I mean, there must be so many hangups with, like, there are plenty of families involved in business. So you've got those personalities and those wants and desires. Can you talk a little bit about that and what type of problems that arise through family?
It's probably a shorter list what problems it doesn't cause. Yeah, I mean, think about it. Almost all of our clients that are selling, this is the first and last time they're going to sell a business. And when you're an entrepreneur, or if you're a second generation family member, there's a lot of emotion attached to that. You remember the blood, the sweat, and the tears to get where you are, or you remember what it looked like when mom did it when she founded the business, or when dad took it over. There's so much tied to it that it's a real emotional journey. At the same time, they're going through an educational journey because they've never done it before. And then you layer in the stress of, will it happen? How much? When? It's a lot. It's a lot. And one of the things I think we excel at, because we've had to really get good at this, is slowing it down. Like slowing down, helping our clients get up to speed on what's going on, and then just give them the grace and space to process it. Because it's a lot.
Yeah. And I think you've mentioned in the past that a lot of companies will read the headlines and, oh, if this guy sold his business for this, we should get, just as much. That really happens.
All the time. I curse journalists all the time, Bill, specifically for that. Yeah, the things that hit the headlines are the really big deals, right? So a company sold for $2 billion, and that was 12 times EBITDA. Well, it was a $2 billion company. Those aren't valued the same as a $20 million company, right? They have systems, they have process, they have all sorts of stuff, right? So they're very different. Scale plays a big piece of that. And the first thing we spend time on is valuation. Where do you fit in the market? And like Jason said, what are the risk factors? Aside from value, where do we have to kind of insulate ourselves to get to a deal? Has nothing to do with value. It's just getting it done. So yeah, it's It's a challenge.
And I would also add to that timing, the macros that go into it. Anybody who's thinking about selling needs to understand, from the industry that I was in previously with software, SaaS software, those multiples peaked at a certain point, but they ebb and flow. And really giving that perspective to a potential seller, or even sometimes even potential buyers, is important to understand, what actual valuation might be.
Jason, you spoke recently to a group, I think in Baltimore County, and about basically selling your business or how to prepare for it. And I think about 350 people turned out for that, which to me that says there's a massive demand for this type of guidance.
I appreciate that. And the topic was, how do you merge exit, and growth strategy simultaneously? And I think that's one of the biggest dilemmas founders and entrepreneurs have, of how do I grow my business while I'm beginning to at least keep an eye on what's next? And they're not completely disparate undertakings. That the same things that will create growth in your business should create enterprise value in the business, but that awareness earlier than later of understanding how those two go together. I mean, one of my early mentors always said, you need to grow your business as if you're going to sell it, even though you may not, maybe a lifestyle business. And I thought that was great advice. And that was sort of the genesis of the topic for the conversation.
Yeah, to add to that, I mean, the whole idea, begin with the end in mind. Like, you can grow, but if you're bolting on a bunch of disparate aspects to your company and a buyer's not going to value those, if the plan is to sell, you didn't grow with any purpose. So I agree with Jason completely, and it was a great speech he gave. The growth has to be thought of at the same time with the exit.
Hmm. And so when you look at the next 5 years, what do they look
Growth.
like for Tower?
Yeah. Yeah, we're growing. I mean, the adage, like, we've really spent a lot of time building our foundation. So the core skill set, the reps, the deals are here. We've been doing this for 15 years. Jason's job, his primary job, is to help us scale our business. And we've done great. We had his first year here. We had our record year for engagements. And this year looks better than last. So we want to keep training. We want to keep building our team. And we want to keep expanding our culture inside the firm.
Yeah. And you've just, I mean, recently you hired Ben Robinson. Can you talk about him and what he brings to the table?
He's amazing. Like, Ben was such a good get, right? So if our business is to help founders exit, Ben was a Wall Street investment banker, very accomplished, took over his family's business when it was in a state of stress, righted the business, grew the business, and then sold it and exited. I mean, he is exactly what we preach, and he did it. And he did it as an operator. And then the fact that we were able to get him to come back and join the team, we were ecstatic. So Ben's leading our consumer investment banking platform, and that was his roots, and that was the family business, and it's what he's leading right now.
And it also helps cover our geography. We have a decent concentration up in the New York metro area, where he spends half the time, and then also in Florida, which are two areas that have a ton of those baby boomer businesses that we were referring to, and the sponsors that look to buy them.
Yeah. Yeah. His story about um, resurrecting his family business is it's incredible because you just don't see that, hear that often.
Yeah, he's a grade A human being too. I mean, he fits in. There are plenty of talented investment bankers out there that we're not going to hire. Like, Ben is our guy.
Yeah. Great. I think I'm all set with the questions unless you have anything else you want to add. Anything burning?
No, no, not right this second. We'll see when we get out of this interview.
Okay.
Appreciate you having us on, though.
Well, yeah. Thank you for having. Thank you for spending time with us on City Biz, Jason, Irv. It was great seeing you. Great talking with you.
You too. Our pleasure. Thank you.